Fears homelessness will surge. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because, well, I want to have a look at this media release from the Salvation Army. We just looked at another article discussing rental hikes by Christmas, 5% increases predicted, and we've seen how rents have gone up all around Australia, in the capital cities, particularly on the East Coast. It's just getting nuts. And, well, let's have a look at what the Salvos have to say. The Salvos fear homelessness is on increase due to inflation and housing stress. Well, we're all aware of inflation. We've actually encountered it for the first time. This Homelessness Week, which is this week, recognise how easy it is to lose a home and how hard it is to find another. It's getting worse right now, particularly with people we're seeing all the stories of people struggling to find a rental. The Salvation Army is urging Australians this Homelessness Week to accept there isn't a type of person who finds themselves homeless. It can and does happen to anyone. In 2021, 11,604 Australians identified their accommodation as an improvised home, tent, or sleeping out. With those sleeping rough, just 7% of the total number of people experiencing homelessness. So that's not that bad. It could be a lot worse than that. Out of a huge country, we've only got 11,604 people, and only 7% of those experiencing are sleeping rough. So it seems there is a belief out there that homelessness is something that happens to other people. But I see people from all walks of life who have found themselves without accommodation. Dr. Jed Donoghue, the Salvation Army's General Manager of Homelessness. It doesn't take much to lose a home, just unfortunate circumstances that once in play can't be easily reversed. Dr. Donoghue says he is concerned that the current economic climate and a chronic lack of accessible and affordable accommodation is only going to see homelessness problems in this country increase. We are seeing more people in rural areas seeking our help because there simply aren't enough places up for rent. If they are unaffordable. Moving elsewhere doesn't help. It's a growing problem everywhere. And I remember we were looking at Maryborough, and just in the Northern Rivers regions of New South Wales, how they've got a rental issue, just like many other places. But you've also got to remember, are these councils allowing development? You know, it's easy to now write and bitch and moan to the federal government or the state government if you're, living in one of these regions, going, they've got to come and do something. But you've got to make it easy for supply and houses to be built. You've got to make it cheaper. You've got to get out of the way. You've got to reduce regulation and hoops to jump through. Because if people can make good money building cheap houses, they'll do it. But they can't, can they? They can make good money building, max block bloody phone boxes. The Salvation Army recognise that while ordinary Australians who have lost jobs, have to care for a loved one, or can no longer afford their rent or mortgage is increasing, disadvantaged community members such as women fleeing domestic violence, veterans and mentally ill, and those over 55 remain vulnerable. For example, according to Dr. Donoghue, each year an estimated 7,690 women return to perpetrators because they have nowhere to go, and an estimated 9,120 women become homeless. I'd love to see the stats on that with regards to men too. Because I've interviewed gentlemen who were trying to start a men's shelter where men could stay with their kids, because there isn't one in Australia. Okay? There isn't one. Sure, there's a place men can go, but they'll take your kids off you. There's nowhere a father can flee from domestic violence. And remember, intimate partner violence, it's bilateral. I assumed, considering what I've read, that that's accepted as fact now, but I guess it's not mainstream. Anyway, last year, in 2021, the Salvos assisted over 95,000 people who were homeless, provided over 300,000 sessions of care to people, provided 887,000 crisis beds, and 1.7 meals. Dr. Donoghue said, Those who wish to help the salvos can do so by donating time and or money. However, small efforts can have a big impact. Everyone can help the situation through simple actions such as treating those impacted by homelessness with dignity and respect and advocating for their rights. The fact is that today homelessness is closer than many think and could well affect someone you know and love. Let's have a talk about this. Here's one thing I want to put to you. Okay, homelessness, particularly if you're living in a home, if you're renting somewhere, or if you're paying a mortgage. If you're working, you have to pay the state before you ensure you provide for your family. Your money is taken out of you, a big chunk of it is taken away from you and given to the state before you have to pay your mortgage or your housing or your food. I would suggest rather than allowing people to negative gear properties and invest and having such a convoluted system, maybe we just allow people to, write off their primary residence, the interest they pay on that, so that they get to provide housing for themselves before their money is taken off them and given to the state. Maybe we'd have less people who unfortunately wind up in this situation if they are the priority of their life rather than the state first. What do you reckon? Can you see that happening? I know there was a few politicians putting that forward as a policy at the last election. It never gets much airtime. It's always the same thing. But here you go, guys. We've got an exacerbated rental crisis. We've got concerns of increased homelessness, and it is across all walks of life in Australia. I remember we were looking at an article a couple of years now ago, and it was a professional couple. They were both on six figures. One was a project manager, one was a warehouse manager, and the only reason they could stay in their house was because of the mortgage holidays that the banks provided. Just think about that. You're not talking people who aren't educated, who haven't worked hard to reach a position that they're in. There needs to be some education for our wider population. It needs to be cool to have a rainy day fund again. People need to realize that the Centrelink and the government and all that support, that's a last resort. If you've got any savings, you won't get any access to that. Anyway, tell me what you think, guys. What is your suggestions to deal with this? I also, I want to emphasize we need to look at the not in my backyard crowd, and we need to get cheaper housing. That's what we need. We need supply of cheaper houses and simpler houses. Simpler. Tiny homes are not the solution, guys. That's a step backwards to living caravan life. They're doing that to get around the rules. That's why it's happening. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I discuss here, there are a few ways you can help out. You can financially support us via YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. Buy our pocket squares. Call us if you need an architect. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time. Take care, guys. Have a great day. And, be kind to anyone you see who's homeless. The good old salvos.